The Kobali were fools to believe humanity had been eradicated, but Henry King was about to remind them that humans were masters at playing dead and exacting brutal vengeance on those who tried to put them in the grave. It had been decades since the Kobali fleet shattered Earth's defenses and rained fire on its cities, slaughtering billions. But Henry King survived, retreating to the shadows with a ragtag band of human soldiers. On a remote asteroid base, they plotted, trained, and rebuilt their strength in secret. The Kobali had no idea that the species they tried so hard to destroy was very much alive and growing more powerful every day. Henry's eyes blazed with hatred as he reviewed the latest intel from his spies. Laros, the arrogant Kobali leader who ordered the assault on Earth, was about to make a fatal mistake. The bastard was going to visit humanity's conquered homeworld itself to gloat over the supposed extinction of man. As far as Henry was concerned, Laros had just signed his own death warrant. The big ugly snake probably thought he was untouchable, protected by his fanatical guards and warships. But Henry had a plan to infiltrate the Kobali defenses and put a bullet right between Laros's eyes. It would strike a devastating blow to Kobali morale while showing the galaxy that humans were back and that they took shit from no one. But it wouldn't be easy. Henry's freedom fighters were badly outnumbered and outgunned. Everything hinged on stealth, surprise, and the secret weapon Henry's tech team had just uncovered. Fragments of impossibly advanced alien technology hidden on the asteroid for eons. If they could get it working in time, it might just give humans the edge they needed to bring the Kobali to their knees. If they failed, though, it would mean the end of the human race, this time for good. The Kobali would hunt down the last survivors without mercy. The stakes had never been higher. The fate of humanity hung in the balance. Henry gripped his rifle tight as he prepared for the most important mission of his life. It was time to remind the galaxy that humans were the most dangerous monsters of all. In the depths of the asteroid base, Henry King strides into the research lab, his eyes immediately drawn to the alien artifacts glowing softly on the examination table. Dr. Ethan Novak and Lucas Reeves look up from their work, excitement etched on their faces. "What have you got for me?" Henry asks, his voice gruff but tinged with anticipation. Dr. Novak gestures to the artifacts. "This technology is unlike anything we've ever seen. The energy output is off the charts, and the potential applications are mind-boggling." Lucas chimes in, "We believe we can integrate this into our ships and weapons, giving us a significant advantage over the Kobali. It could change everything." Henry nods, a glimmer of hope sparking in his battle-hardened eyes. "Do it. Whatever resources you need, you've got it. This could be our ticket to taking back Earth." As the scientists set to work, Henry turns his attention to the next phase of the plan. He calls in Aiden Hawk, his most skilled spy, and briefs him on the mission. "I need you to infiltrate the Kobali Empire, get close to Laros's inner circle, find out everything you can about his upcoming visit to Earth, security protocols, travel plans, the works." Aiden, a master of disguise and deception, accepts the mission without hesitation. "Consider it done. By the time I'm through, I'll know Laros's every move before he makes it." Weeks later, Aiden's intel starts pouring in. Posing as a Kobali technician, he's managed to gain access to high-level security plans for Laros's grand celebration on Earth. Laros will be arriving in his personal flagship, the Kothar, Aiden reports over an encrypted channel. "That ship is a fortress, heavily armed and defended. It won't be easy to get to him." Back at the base, Dr. Novak and Lucas have made a breakthrough. The alien technology they've discovered can create stable wormholes, allowing for instantaneous travel across vast distances. Henry sees the potential immediately. "This is it. This is how we get to Laros. We use the wormholes to launch a surprise attack on the Kothar, take out their defenses before they even know what hit them." As the day of the celebration draws near, Henry assembles his team of elite soldiers. Captain Jake Tanner, his second in command, and Sergeant Connor Reed, the Resistance's most lethal sniper, are among the chosen few. They train relentlessly, running simulations of the Kothar's defenses and the celebration venue. Every scenario is accounted for, every possible outcome anticipated. Aiden, now deep undercover on the Kothar, sends a final update. Laros has doubled his personal security. The man's paranoid, and for good reason. Getting to him won't be easy, but I'll do what I can to sabotage the ship's defenses from the inside. With all the pieces in place, Henry and his team finalize their audacious plan. Using the wormhole technology, they'll jump the Kothar just as it enters Earth's orbit. Connor will take out the ship's defenses with his sniper skills, while Jake leads a boarding party to secure the bridge and engine room. Henry will confront Laros himself, ending the Kobali leader's reign of terror with a bullet to the head. It's a message to the galaxy. Humanity is back, and they will not go quietly into the night. As the team makes their final preparations, Henry takes a moment to reflect on the path that led them here. The sacrifices, the losses, the unrelenting struggle against an enemy that sought to erase them from existence. But now, with the fate of humanity resting on their shoulders, Henry feels a sense of purpose, of destiny. This is what they've been fighting for, the chance to reclaim their home and their future. He looks to his team, sees the dogged commitment in their eyes. They're ready, willing to lay down their lives for the cause. "This is it," Henry says, his voice steady and strong. "This is our moment. We're going to take back what's ours, and we're going to show the Kobali and the whole damn galaxy that humanity will never surrender." With that, they board their ship, the alien technology humming with power, and set a course for Earth, for Laros, and for the battle that will decide the fate of the human race. The silence of the asteroid base was shattered by the blaring of alarms. Henry King sprinted to the command center, his heart racing. As he burst through the doors, he saw his team gathered around a flickering holographic display. "What's going on?" Henry demanded, his eyes scanning the room. Dr. Novak looked up from the console, his face a mix of shock and disbelief. "We're receiving a transmission. It's from other humans." Henry's heart made. "Put it through." The holographic display flickered to life, revealing the face of a woman with short-cropped hair and piercing blue eyes. "This is Captain Sarah Novak of the Zephyrus colony. We've come to join the fight." For a moment, Henry couldn't speak. Other human survivors? It seemed too good to be true. His mind raced with possibilities and potential dangers. "How did you find us?" Henry asked, his voice tinged with suspicion. Sarah's expression hardened. "We've been searching for other survivors for years. We intercepted some of your encrypted communications. Look, I know you have no reason to trust us, but we're here to help." Over the next hour, Sarah laid out her proposal. The Zephyrus fleet, armed with weapons derived from the same alien tech Henry's team had discovered, could launch a coordinated attack on the Kobali during the Earth celebration. Henry listened intently, his mind working through every angle. It could be a trap, a Kobali ploy to lure them out of hiding. But if Sarah was telling the truth... "You said you have intel on Kobali defenses," Henry said. "Prove it." Sarah nodded and transmitted a data packet. Dr. Novak's eyes widened as he analyzed the information. "This is legitimate, Henry. It's a previously unknown weakness in their shield harmonics. This could give us the edge we need." Henry paced the room, weighing the risks against the potential rewards. Finally, he turned to face his team. "What do you think?" Jake Tanner, his second-in-command, spoke up. "It's a risk, but one we have to take. This could be our only shot at real victory." After hours of discussion and planning, Henry made his decision. He opened a channel to Sarah's ship. "We're in. Let's take these bastards down." The next days were a flurry of activity. Dr. Novak and Lucas worked around the clock, integrating the wormhole tech into their ships and developing a cloaking device for Henry's infiltration team. As the day of the mission dawned, Henry received one last message from Aiden Hawk, still undercover on the Kothar. "Key systems sabotaged. Ready when you are, boss." Henry gathered his team for a final briefing. The room was thick with tension as he looked at each of his soldiers in turn. "This is it. Everything we fought for comes down to this moment. We're not just fighting for ourselves anymore. We're fighting for every human who survived, for everyone we've lost, and for the future of our species." He paused, his voice growing quiet but intense. I won't lie to you. This mission is dangerous as hell. Some of us might not make it back. But if we succeed, we strike a blow that the Kobali will never recover from. We show the galaxy that humanity is still here, and we're not going down without a fight. The room was silent as Henry's words sank in. Then, one by one, his soldiers stood, faces set with willpower. As they boarded their ships, Henry took a moment to himself. He thought of Earth, of the billions lost, of the long, brutal years of hiding and fighting. A fire burned in his chest. Not just anger, but hope. Real hope. For the first time in years. Henry stepped onto the bridge of his ship, the alien tech humming with power around him. He opened a channel to the assembled fleet, his own ships and the newcomers from Zephyrus. All ships prepare for wormhole jump. Today we take back our home. With that, the human fleet vanished into the swirling vortex of the wormholes, hurtling towards a confrontation that would decide the fate of their species. The bridge of the Kothar buzzed with activity as Henry King surveyed the tactical display. Earth, once a distant memory, now filled the view screen, a blue and green jewel surrounded by the chaos of battle. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from Calderon," reported Jake Tanner, his fingers flying over the comm panel. Henry nodded. "Put it through." The screen flickered, revealing the face of Alexis Caldwell. Her eyes blazed with a fire Henry recognized all too well. "King, this is Commander Caldwell. We picked up your transmission. Calderon stands ready to join the fight." Henry's lips curved into a grim smile. "Glad to have you, Commander. What are your numbers?" 300 ships all armed to the teeth. We've been preparing for this day for years. As Henry coordinated with Caldwell, alarms blared across the ship. Sarah Novak's voice crackled over the comms. "King, we've got incoming. Massive Kobali reinforcements dropping out of FTL." Henry's mind raced. They needed more time. "Novak, can you hold them?" "We'll do our damnedest, but we're outnumbered 5-1. Just then, a new voice cut through the chaos. "This is Zara, former Kobali engineer. I have critical information about Kobali defenses. Please, let me help." Henry hesitated for a split second before making his decision. "Patch her through to Dr. Novak. We need every advantage we can get." As the battle raged around Earth, Henry coordinated the incoming human fleets. Ships of all sizes and configurations poured in from every corner of the galaxy. A ragtag armada, united by a common purpose. On the planet's surface, strike teams led by Connor Reed targeted key Kobali installations. The crack of his sniper rifle echoed as he took out defensive emplacements, clearing the way for ground forces to reclaim their homeland. Back on the Kothar, Dr. Novak worked feverishly with Zara, the Kobali defector. Her insider knowledge, combined with the alien tech, allowed them to exploit weaknesses in the Kobali shields that had previously seemed impenetrable. "Henry, we've got it!" Dr. Novak shouted, his eyes wide with excitement. "Transmitting the shield frequencies to all ships now." As the new data spread through the human fleet, the tide of battle shifted. Kobali ships, once invulnerable, now fell to concentrated fire from the resurgent human forces. Henry watched the tactical display, his heart pounding as more and more green dots representing human ships appeared. They were still outnumbered, but the gap was closing. "All ships, this is King," Henry broadcast across the fleet. "Push forward, take out their command ships. Show these bastards what happens when you try to wipe out humanity." The human fleet surged forward as one, their weapons blazing. Kobali ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light, unable to withstand the onslaught. On a dozen worlds across the galaxy, hidden human colonies emerged from hiding, inspired by the battle unfolding at Earth. They struck at Kobali outposts and supply lines, further destabilizing the once mighty empire. As the hours wore on, Henry coordinated strike after strike against key Kobali positions. Slowly but surely, they pushed the invaders back, reclaiming the orbitals around Earth. The Kobali, reeling from the loss of their leader and facing an enemy they thought long dead, began to falter. Their formations broke apart, Their tactics grew desperate and uncoordinated. Henry allowed himself a moment of hope. They weren't out of the woods yet, but for the first time in years, victory seemed possible. Humanity, scattered but unbroken, was coming home, and they were ready to fight for it. The captured Kothar hummed with activity as Henry King strode onto the bridge. Holographic displays flickered, showing the ongoing battles across the galaxy. He paused, taking in the sight of Earth on the main view screen, blue and green, scarred but still beautiful. "Status report," Henry barked, his eyes scanning the tactical readouts. Jake Tanner, his face haggard from days without sleep, looked up from his console. "Sir, Caldwell's forces have engaged the Kobali defenses over Krios. Our strike teams are ready for deployment." Henry nodded, his eyebrows furrowed. "Launch the dropships. It's time we take back what's ours." As the Kothar's hangar bay doors slid open, a squadron of sleek dropships roared into space. Henry watched from the bridge as they streaked towards the embattled mining colony, dodging plasma fire from Kobali cruisers. On the surface of Krios, Connor Reed crouched behind a twisted hunk of metal, his sniper rifle steady in his hands. The air reeked of ozone and burning flesh. He peered through his scope, picking off Kobali soldiers as they scrambled for cover. "This is Reed," he growled into his comm. "Northwest quadrant secured. Moving to extraction point Alpha." Across the battlefield, Zara, the Kobali defector, worked feverishly to hack into the colony's defense grid. Her fingers flew over an alien console, sweat beading on her forehead. "Almost there," she muttered. "Just a few more seconds." A squad of Kobali troops burst into the room, weapons raised. Before they could fire, a hail of bullets cut them down. Jake Tanner stood in the doorway, his assault rifle smoking. How much longer?" he asked, reloading. Zara didn't look up. "Done. Defense grid is down. Our ships have a clear shot at their command center." Back on the Kothar, Henry watched as Caldwell's fleet punched through the weakened Kobali defenses. The mining colony's vast refining facilities came into view, their importance to the Kobali war machine evident in the fierce resistance they encountered. "All ships, concentrate fire on those refineries," Henry ordered. "Cut off their supply lines." The space above Krios lit up with weapons fire as human ships hammered the Kobali positions. On the ground, resistance fighters pushed forward, liberating sectors one by one. Hours later, as the dust settled, Henry stood in the colony's central plaza. The air was thick with smoke, but the sound of cheering filled his ears. Hundreds of human colonists, freed from Kobali enslavement, crowded around him. "Today, we've struck a blow for humanity," Henry called out, his voice carrying across the square. "But this is just the beginning. We won't rest until every human world is free, until Earth itself is ours again." The crowd roared its approval. Henry felt a surge of hope, tempered by the knowledge of the battles still to come. As the resistance forces secured Krios, Henry turned his attention to their next target. The Kobali shipyard's orbiting Vectra loomed large in his mind, a fortress of enemy power that had to be brought down. In the war room of the Kothar, Henry gathered his top lieutenants. Zara stood at his side, her knowledge of Kobali technology proving invaluable. "The shipyards are heavily defended," Zara explained, gesturing to a holographic display. "But if we can get close enough with our captured ships, we can deliver a crippling blow." Henry studied the plans, his mind racing with possibilities and risks. "It's a one-way trip for whoever goes in," he said quietly. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Then, one by one, pilots stepped forward, volunteering for what would likely be their final mission. As preparations for the Vectra assault began, Henry received reports of growing unrest throughout Kobali space. The news of Krios's liberation had spread like wildfire, igniting hope in oppressed human populations across the galaxy. On a dozen worlds, resistance cells sprang into action, emboldened by the knowledge that they were no longer alone. Supply depots were sabotaged, communication relays destroyed, Kobali patrols ambushed. Henry pored over the reports, a fierce pride welling up inside him. Humanity, scattered but unbroken, was fighting back, The Kobali Empire, once seemingly invincible, was beginning to crumble under the weight of 1,000 cuts. As the Kothar set course for Vectra, Henry stood at the viewport, watching the stars streak by. The coming battle would be their most dangerous yet, but he felt a sense of inevitability. The tide was turning, and nothing would stop humanity's march back to Earth. The Kothar's engines thrummed as Henry King gazed at the holographic display of Novaxis and its orbiting shipyards. His eyes narrowed, studying the facility's defenses. "Zara, run me through those weak points again," Henry said, his voice low and focused. The former Kobali engineer stepped forward, her fingers dancing across the hologram. "Here, here, and here," she pointed. "The primary power conduits. Take those out, and the whole facility goes dark." Henry nodded, then turned to Sarah Novak on the comm screen. "Captain, your fleet will engage their outer defenses. Draw their fire. Keep them occupied." Sarah's face was grim but determined. "Understood. We'll give them hell." As the Zephyrus fleet moved into position, Henry gathered his strike team in the hangar bay. The captured Kobali shuttles loomed before them, alien and menacing. "Remember," Henry addressed the assembled soldiers, "we're ghosts, in and out before they know we're there." Jake Tanner checked his weapon, the familiar weight comforting in his hands. "Just like old times, eh, boss?" Henry allowed himself a small smile. "Let's hope we're luckier this time." The battle erupted in a fury of laser fire and explosions. Through the chaos, Henry's shuttles slipped past the Kobali defenses, unnoticed amidst the debris and weapons fire. They touched down in a deserted landing bay, the sounds of distant alarms echoing through the cavernous space. Henry's team moved swiftly, their footsteps silent on the metal deck. At a junction, Henry split the team. "Tanner, take your group and secure that control center. We'll handle the explosives." Jake nodded, his face set with concentration. "Good hunting, sir." As Jake's team moved off, Henry led his group deeper into the shipyards. The construction bays stretched out before them, skeletal frames of massive warships looming in the shadows. "Over here," Zara whispered, gesturing to a hulking power relay. "This is our first target." Henry's engineers worked quickly, attaching compact but powerful charges to the critical components. The timer blinked to life. 30 minutes. Suddenly, a door hissed open. Henry's team froze as a Kobali patrol marched past, mere meters away. Zara pulled Henry behind a stack of crates, her breath hot on his ear as they waited in tense silence. Once the patrol passed, they continued their work, planting charges at each designated point. Henry's comm crackled to life. "Sir, we've secured the control center." Jake's voice came through, punctuated by the sound of weapons fire. "But we've got company. Lots of it." "Hold your position," Henry ordered. "We're almost done here." As they planted the final charge, alarms blared throughout the facility. Their time was up. "Move!" Henry shouted, leading his team back towards the extraction point. They raced through corridors, the sounds of pursuit growing closer. Ahead, a squad of Kobali soldiers appeared, weapons raised. Henry didn't hesitate. He opened fire, his team following suit. The air filled with the acrid smell of ozone as energy weapons discharged. They fought their way back to the shuttles, Jake's team joining them en route. As they lifted off, the first explosions rocked the shipyards. Henry watched from the viewport as the massive facility began to tear itself apart, secondary explosions chaining through its superstructure. "All teams report," Henry called over the comms. One by one, his strike teams checked in. They'd made it out. As they rejoined Sarah's battered but victorious fleet, Henry allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The Kobali shipyards burned behind them, a crippling blow to the enemy's war machine. Back on the Kothar, Henry gathered his commanders. The tactical display showed the ripple effects of their victory. Kobali forces in disarray, human resistance cells seizing the initiative across the galaxy. "We've got them on the run," Sarah said, her eyes gleaming with fierce pride. Henry nodded, his mind already racing ahead to their next move. "And we're not going to let up. It's time to take the fight to their doorstep." He pulled up a new star chart, centered on the heart of Kobali space. "Our next target," Henry said, his voice filled with quiet intensity, "is their capital." Henry King stood on the bridge of the Kothar, his eyes fixed on the swirling blue-green orb of Trachis. The Kobali capital world loomed before them, its orbital defense platforms dripping with weaponry. "All ships report in," Henry ordered, his voice steady despite the tension in his chest. One by one, the fleet commanders responded, their voices crackling over the comm. Sarah Novak's face appeared on the main view screen, her expression grim but determined. "Zephyrus fleet is ready, sir," she said. "We'll give those bastards a fight they won't forget." Henry nodded. "Remember the plan. Draw their fire, create that opening. We'll do the rest." As the Zephyrus ships engaged the orbital defenses, Henry led his stealth-equipped strike force towards the planet's surface. The stolen Kobali technology hummed quietly, cloaking them from enemy sensors. Jake Tanner sat beside him in the shuttle, checking his weapon for the 100th time. "You really think this'll work, boss?" Henry's lips tightened. "It has to." They emerged from the wormhole deep in Trachis' atmosphere, the planet's surface rushing up to meet them. Henry's hands tightened on the controls as he guided their craft towards the coordinates of the command bunker. On the ground, Connor Reed and Alexis Caldwell were already in position, their sniper rifles trained on the bunker's entrance. Connor's voice came through the comm, barely above a whisper. "Multiple hostiles at the main gate. No sign they've detected us yet." Henry's shuttle touched down silently behind a ridge, concealed from view. He turned to his team, meeting each of their eyes in turn. "This is it. We hit them hard, we hit them fast, for Earth." They moved swiftly towards the bunker, utilizing every scrap of cover. As they neared the entrance, Connor's rifle cracked, dropping 2 Kobali guards in quick succession. "Now!" Henry shouted, and his team surged forward. The initial assault caught the Kobali completely off guard. Energy weapons flashed as Henry and Jake led the charge, breaching the outer perimeter in a hail of gunfire. Inside the bunker, alarms blared as Kobali soldiers scrambled to respond. Henry's team pushed forward relentlessly, their weapons cutting down anyone who stood in their way. Zara's voice came through the comm, urgent and focused. "I'm into their systems. Disabling security protocols now." Blast doors that should have sealed shut remained open. Automated defenses failed to activate. Henry's team pressed their advantage, driving deeper into the complex. In orbit, Sarah Novak's voice crackled over the comm. "Breach created in Sector 7. Infiltration team is away." Henry acknowledged the transmission as he ducked behind a console, energy bolts sizzling past his head. Jake was at his side, returning fire with controlled bursts. "We need to push through to the command center," Henry shouted over the din of battle. "It's just ahead." They fought their way forward, meter by bloody meter. The Kobali elite guard put up fierce resistance, but they were outmatched by the humans' desperation and skill. Finally, they reached the massive doors of the central command chamber. Henry nodded to Jake, who planted an explosive charge. The blast rocked the entire bunker, and Henry's team surged through the smoke and debris. Inside, they found themselves face-to-face with Grand Admiral Vorath and the remnants of the Kobali leadership. Vorath's eyes blazed with hatred as he raised his weapon. "You dare invade the heart of our empire!" Henry didn't waste breath on a response. He opened fire, diving for cover as the room erupted into chaos. The battle was brutal in close quarters. Henry could smell the acrid stench of burned flesh and ozone as energy weapons discharged all around him. He saw Jake take down 2 Kobali officers with precision shots, while narrowly avoiding a blast that left a smoking crater in the wall behind him. Vorath proved to be a formidable opponent, his centuries of combat experience evident in every move, but he hadn't counted on the raw fury and grit of humanity fighting for its very survival. In the end, it was Henry who cornered the Kobali leader, his weapon trained on Vorath's chest. "It's over," Henry said, his voice hard. "Your empire ends here." Vorath's eyes narrowed. "You think this victory means anything? You're too late. Earth is—" Henry's shot cut off the Kobali's words, leaving only silence in its wake. As the last of the Kobali leadership fell, Henry stood in the center of the command chamber, his chest heaving. He keyed his comm, his voice hoarse but clear. "This is King. The bunker is secure. I repeat, the bunker is secure." He walked to the main control panel, its alien symbols now familiar thanks to Zara's teachings. With a few quick commands, he opened a channel to every Kobali world, every resistance cell, every corner of the galaxy where humans still fought for survival. Henry took a deep breath, then spoke, his words carrying the weight of years of struggle and sacrifice. "This is Henry King of the human resistance. The Kobali capital has fallen. Their leadership is no more. To all humans out there still fighting, still hiding, the time has come. We're going home. Earth awaits us." As he finished the transmission, Henry turned to his team. Their faces were bloodied and exhausted, but a fierce pride shone in their eyes. They'd come so far, sacrificed so much. This was the moment they'd fought for. Henry's voice cut through the tense silence of the command center. "Sarah, status report on the orbital engagement?" Captain Novak's face appeared on the main view screen, her uniform scorched and hair disheveled. "We've broken through their defensive line, sir. Kobali capital ships are in full retreat. Our fighters are mopping up the stragglers." Henry nodded, his eyes fixed on the tactical display showing Earth's surface. Red icons representing Kobali strongholds blinked out one by one as Allied forces advanced. "Zara, what's the situation with their ground-based defenses?" Henry asked. The former Kobali engineer's fingers flew across her console. "Their network is in shambles. I've successfully shut down 60% of their automated turrets and shield generators." Jake Tanner approached, his battle armor caked with dust and grime. "Boss, we just got word from Alexis. Her teams have secured the Sydney outpost. That's the last major population center accounted for." Henry's lips tightened. "Not quite. We've still got that Kobali holdout in the Himalayas to deal with." He turned to address the assembled command staff. "This is it, people. The last push. We're going to root out every last Kobali on Earth, starting with this mountain stronghold." Henry brought up a holographic map of the Himalayan region. "Intel suggests they've burrowed deep into the mountain. Conventional assault would be costly." Connor Reed stepped forward, his sniper rifle slung across his back. "Sir, if I may, Jake and I have been looking at the topography. There's a narrow ravine here that could give us a back door into their defenses." Henry studied the map, nodding slowly. "A small team might be able to slip through undetected. Good work, Connor." He turned to Jake. "Tanner, I want you and Reed to lead this infiltration. Take our best stealth operatives. Your job is to disable their internal defenses and open a path for our main assault force." Jake's eyes gleamed with anticipation. "Consider it done, sir." Henry addressed the room once more. "The rest of us will coordinate the frontal assault. We'll hit them with everything we've got. Airstrikes, artillery, armored units. Keep them focused on us while Jake's team does their work." He paused, looking each of his commanders in the eye. "This is the last stand of the Kobali on Earth. After today, our home is ours again. Let's finish this." The Allied forces moved into position around the mountain stronghold. Dropships deposited troops and vehicles on the snowy slopes, while Jake and Connor's team began their treacherous climb up the hidden ravine. Henry stood in the mobile command center, coordinating the massive operation. "All units, prepare to engage on my mark." He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of history on his shoulders. With a nod to his communications officer, Henry gave the order that would begin the final battle for Earth. "All units, attack!" The mountainside erupted in fire and thunder as Allied forces surged forward. Kobali defensive positions lit up, energy weapons lancing out to meet the human advance. Inside the mountain, Jake and his infiltration team crept through dark tunnels, their path lit by the eerie glow of Kobali technology. They moved silently, neutralizing sentries with practiced efficiency. "We're approaching the main power distribution hub," Jake whispered into his comm. "Stand by for fireworks." As the battle raged outside, Jake's team prepared to strike at the heart of the Kobali defenses. The icy wind howled through the jagged peaks of the Himalayas as Henry King studied the tactical display. A red dot pulsed deep within the mountain range, marking the last known location of General Vorak's forces. "Intel confirms it," Jake Tanner said, his breath visible in the frigid air of their makeshift command post. "The bastards have holed up in an old monastery, turned it into a goddamn fortress." Henry nodded, his eyes never leaving the display. "Gather the team. We move out in 10. As they trudged through knee-deep snow, Henry's strike force fought not just the Kobali, but the very mountain itself. Avalanches thundered down slopes, triggered by Kobali energy weapons. Narrow ledges crumbled beneath their feet, sending soldiers plummeting into icy chasms. Connor Reed's voice crackled over the comm. "Contact, 3 o'clock!" A hail of energy bolts erupted from a hidden cave mouth. Jake dove behind a boulder, returning fire with practiced precision. Alexis Caldwell flanked left, her rifle spitting death as she advanced. "Push forward," Henry shouted, leading the charge. His weapon blazed, cutting down Kobali guerrillas as they poured from their hiding spots. The skirmish ended as quickly as it began, leaving a dozen Kobali corpses sprawled in the blood-stained snow. Henry knelt beside one, examining the aliens' makeshift armor. "They're running low on supplies," he muttered, getting desperate. Days bled into nights as they fought their way higher into the mountains. Each step brought them closer to Vorak's stronghold, and with every encounter, the Kobali resistance grew fiercer. Finally, they crested a ridge and saw it, an ancient stone monastery perched on a precarious cliffside, filled with energy cannons and shield generators. Connor set up his sniper position, his eye pressed to the scope. "I count at least 30 defensive emplacements, heavy infantry at all access points." Henry surveyed the fortress, his mind racing through tactical scenarios. "We'll never breach it head-on. We need to—" His words were cut short by a blinding flash of light. One of the monastery's towers erupted in a ball of plasma fire, sending chunks of masonry raining down the mountainside. "What the hell?" Jake exclaimed. Henry's comm crackled to life. "King, this is Zara. We've infiltrated their power systems. Outer defenses are down." A fierce grin spread across Henry's face. "All units, attack pattern Delta. Go! Go! Go!" They surged forward, energy weapons blazing. Connor's precision fire picked off Kobali gunners one by one as Jake and Alexis led the frontal assault. Henry fought his way through twisting corridors, the stench of ozone and burning flesh filling his nostrils. Each room cleared brought them closer to Vorak's inner sanctum. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the complex. A sickly green mist began seeping from vents in the walls. "Bioweapon detected." Zara's panicked voice came through the comm. "Henry, Vorak's released the plague." "All units, seal your suits," Henry barked, his heart racing. "Push to the central chamber. We end this now." They fought through waves of frenzied Kobali, desperation lending strength to their alien foes. Henry watched in horror as soldiers on both sides began to succumb to the virulent plague, their bodies twisting and convulsing. With a final thunderous explosion, they breached the doors to Vorak's command center. The Kobali general stood amid banks of alien technology, his cybernetic implants pulsing with malevolent energy. "You're too late, human," Vorak snarled, raising a wicked-looking weapon. "This planet will be your race's tomb." Henry ducked as energy bolts sizzled past his head. He rolled, came up firing, and caught Vorak in the shoulder. The Kobali general stumbled but didn't fall. They clashed in a brutal hand-to-hand struggle, Vorak's augmented strength nearly overwhelming Henry. But years of combat experience and raw human tenacity won out. With a final savage blow, Henry sent Vorak crashing to the ground. As he stood over the defeated Kobali, Henry became aware of the eerie silence that had fallen over the monastery. The battle was over, but at a terrible cost. "Alexis?" he called out, his voice hoarse. "Jake?" Only static answered him.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.